Alrighty guys, welcome back to the Houston Kilby YouTube channel, and boy do we have a special episode for you all today. And that episode is about getting the suspension lined up on the old S-Kicker car. If you don't recognize this car, a few months back we actually completely redid pretty much half of the chassis on this car. It had been wrecked really bad, and I'll also throw in some footage of what this thing used to look like back in the early 90s, and also what happened with the most recent crash of this thing, and then we'll get on into the suspension tune-up here. So let's get into it.
Jeremy Finley out of Boone's Mill, Virginia had to clean up the name of his ride for television. So he took away a little fiberglass and his vehicle became the S-Kicker. Since then, a couple of letters is about the only thing this red Ford Coupe has lost.
Alrighty guys and gals, so there you all have it, a little bit of history, and also you guys got to see the current crash this thing just went through. As y'all can tell, this thing's got some serious damage to it. It's broke a steering shaft out of it. It's ripped the whole front of it apart. You guys can see it all bent up there. And so first thing we got to do is get this thing on a jig and actually see how far out this deal is. Alrighty guys and gals, Houston Kilby here. I just want to get with you guys real quick here on some things that y'all are about to see in the episode, so you guys can kind of understand what's going on. So first off, this is not a video on detail how to tune your suspension, okay? That video would take multiple episodes, or it would be seriously like 2 or 3 hours long worth of footage, all right? So here at our shop, we do suspension tuning here. My Uncle Blaine has been tuning suspension for, Lord mercy, a really long time, and that's who I'm learning from. I don't pretend to know it all by no means, and I've got a ton to learn. So in this episode, I am learning a ton on this S-Kicker car because I've got to help rebuild this thing, and we're also seeing the ins and outs of where problem areas are, okay? And in this episode, we're going to be giving several tips and tricks of things that we have seen multiple times come in the shop of when a car has been wrecked, or people rebuild a car, or it goes through maintenance and they go put the car back together. Then the next time they run it, the car's all over the place. It's trying to go into the wall. It won't go straight. And we want to give you guys some tips and tricks on that. The other thing is, yes, again, we do a lot of suspension tuning, whether it be over the phone, whether it be online, and also in person. In person, like what you guys are seeing today in this episode, it is a really good thing. It's a very in-depth tuning class, and we're tuning on your car, okay? And we also get to figure out things in other areas of the car that may be a problem that you don't realize about. It's normally anywhere from a day to 2 days. I would plan for this as always to be a 2-day at least. So when you want to come, get you a hotel somewhere, or if you're local, that's cool too. But this is definitely something that was great learning experience for the customer and for us as well, and we definitely are wanting to offer this more in the future. So if you're interested in coming out to the shop, bringing your car and getting a tune-up put in it, holler at us, let's set something up and let's make it happen. So anyways guys, enough of me talking, let's get back into the episode. I think you guys are going to enjoy this a lot. Again, at the end of the episode, we'll show some footage here of this thing running after the tune-up and stuff, and you can see a completely different animal compared to the way it was before. So you guys sit back and enjoy. So we're back on to working on this thing. It has now been freshly rebuilt, and now it's time to get the suspension lined up and, more importantly, centered up for them to have a baseline tune to work with at their first event here. So one of the first things you want to do, of course, get your wheels and tires off, get it up on jack stands, all that good stuff, so that you can work on your 4-link bars. And one of the first things I want to show you guys kind of see me here pointing out, looking at the heim joints here of some concerns that's going on. We haven't even got the measuring tapes out, and we're already seeing an issue going on with how many threads are shown on the heim joints. So let's get into that. Alrighty guys and gals, got a quick little tip here for y'all. One of the first things you want to do when setting up your 4-link bars, alright? So let's pretend, you know, there's a 4-link bar here. This is both ends of the heim joint, all right? Again, this is for example only. All right, so one of the first things you want to do is you want to check your threads here. And what we like to do is, especially for our standard 4-link bars, all right, we like to have at least, you know, 3 to 5 threads showing, but whatever you decide to go with, you want to be consistent with that throughout the car, or extremely consistent with, if you're showing 3 threads on your top bars on your front end, you want to show 3 threads on the bottom bars on your front end. So how you do this is, we're going to count threads. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, again, we show anywhere from 3 to 5. On this one, I'm going to show 5. All right, so now we're going to run our jam nut up here to it. All right, and this is our 4-link bar. All right, now this heim joint is set. Okay, you'll want to repeat the same thing over here on the opposite end of the 4-link bar. That way you've got the most amount of travel both directions at both ends of your 4-link bar, okay? Alrighty guys and gals, I want to give a quick example here on some problem heim joints that we've pulled off of customers' vehicles in the past, and I felt like each one of these were a really good example. So these heim joints are completely wore out, alright? They've got slack in them, okay? And you can tell they're loose, alright? This one here has a ton of slack in it. Hope you guys can see that in the camera. All right, I don't care if it's a mud car, sand car, drag car, whatever it may be. If you've got slack like this in your heim joints, it's not a tractor, okay? If it looks like this, it's gonna be really hard to get a consistent suspension tune in it, especially if both ends of the 4-link bar has got slack in it like that. So now instead of just having this much, you have double the amount, and trying to get the car to go straight with this is really complicated and really a pain in the butt. All right, last thing here on this that I wanted to show, because this was a perfect example here. Both of these came off the car as they are, where you see the jam nuts at, okay? All right, so when you're setting a car up for the first time, especially, all right, see how many threads are showing here and how many threads are showing here? If you're trying to line your car up, okay, and you're trying to get the car squared up, and your 4-link bars look like this right here, like let's pretend this is the passenger side top and this is the driver's side top bar, and they look like this, your rear end is most likely like this. It's probably got some crazy amount of offset going off here, or potentially rear steer and everything, okay? So again, that's why I was suggesting when you start out to do your suspension tune, or start out to line your car up and get everything squared up, get everything set up on the same amount of threads on your 4-link bars. It's a major help, and I know it's helped me out a ton on squaring a car up for the first time, because if you've got these threads off like this, then you're just chasing it, and that's not fun. So anyways, back to the video here. Alrighty guys, so we're back at it here. So we're hard at work. It's time to get these 4-link bars off the car or make adjustments to them. And if I remember correctly, when we done the suspension tune on this thing, we actually found one heim joint that was bent up pretty bad on the front suspension, and I believe we found one that was on the rear as well. Luckily we had some in stock and we was able to keep moving right along here. But that just goes to show you, after a crash, when you start putting things back together again, you're going to figure out where problem areas are. And you guys can see us right now. We're literally just adjusting the 4-link bars, trying to get them centered up, meaning we're getting a consistent amount of threads showing on both the front side of the bar, rear side of the bar. Same thing on, you know, when we're going from top bar to bottom bar. We want the same amount of threads showing. So when we get into the next part here, when we start centering the car up, squaring the front end up and squaring the rear end up, you know, we want to have consistent amount of threads, so that way we've got the same amount of adjustments on top and bottom and from side to side, if that makes sense. So yeah, man. All right, so you guys can kind of see me there. I'm marking threads, trying to get things where we want them at, and this can kind of take some time here. It's kind of you know, a slow process to get it done. It helps a lot if you got a second set of hands, and the customer was doing great at jumping in and working with us, and we definitely appreciate that when it's on suspension tuning day. Everybody needs to jump in. Everybody needs to be hands on decks, because I'm the type of person where I learn the best when I'm physically making changes and I'm there working on it as well. And I believe these guys, they got to learn a ton from this. So yeah, moving on into the next part here. It's time for plumb bobs, running strings, getting this thing on jack stands everywhere, and trying to get the chassis centered up with the front end and the rear end. And if you guys want more information on that, I highly suggest, if you're having problems with it, calling us up. We do have suspension tuning available. We can do it over the phone or here on site. If you want to have a suspension tune on site, and you want to have like a 2-day class of how to learn how to do this. So for your car, you can learn how to scale it out. You can learn how to work on your shocks. You can learn how to work on your 4-link bars. You can learn a whole lot of information here. Your toe in, your toe out, all that good stuff. There's a lot of information to learn here in a suspension tuning class, and I highly suggest it. So we're wrapping up on this car here. Again, this wasn't a full video of how to tune your suspension tuning, but I just thought I'd show you guys, you know, some highlights of some of the stuff that we've done in this car. And then they got to get this thing loaded back up here in a minute, and I'll show you guys some runs this thing made. So yeah, man, I think we had a very good suspension tuning day. The customer learned a lot, and I got to learn a lot, and it was really cool seeing this car put back together. This thing was wrecked pretty hard, and most cars, when they wreck like this, they don't make it back, and this thing made it back, and I was very happy it was able to figure things out. Oh, lastly, your 4-link bars. Some vehicles have different length 4-link bars on top to bottom, and this one did on the front of it. Guys, you want to make sure you get those in the correct spot. That's another little quick tip trick there for you. You want the same length 4-link bar parallel to each other. So, I mean, if you got 14-inch bar on the bottom, you want both bottom bars to be 14 inches, etc., etc. So, anyways, they're getting this old girl rolled out of here, and I hope you guys sit back and enjoy the pass it's about to make. And, yeah, guys, rock and roll. All right, guys, that's it for us for this episode. I hope y'all enjoyed it. We've got a lot of stuff going on in the shop right now, and this is one of the things that kind of happened here recently that I wanted to film and show you all that's going on in the background. And I thought it was really good for the customers to bring their car out, us to work on it, and they got to learn on it as well to help them for the future of their racing. And, you know, it was a good thing. Worked out good for everybody. It was kind of interesting after we saw the car put back together. Again, we found several things in the car once it was all put back together that we didn't realize was going on. Once the car was rebuilt, we saw things with the front end, we saw things with the rear end, we saw things with the shocks on the rear end that was different, and that, you know, in the future we definitely want them to change and stuff. We saw things like, you know, one of the front rims was bent and stuff from the crash that they didn't realize had happened until we got it in here and seen what was going on. You know, and it's things like that when you get to do a suspension tune, your 4-link bars. You know, when we were working on the front end of it, we saw that I was like, man, there's something messed up with the whole alignment of the front end here. What is going on? Come to find out, recheck the 4-link bars, and when you go take a car apart, all the bars look the same. And on some vehicles, you've got bottom bars, it's one length, and the top bars is a different length. And this car had that going on, and those bars were mismatched and all over the place. And when it done that, it had the front end all messed up. So it's interesting when you get to start working on stuff. You get to show the customer, like, hey, these are things you need to look for, and they had no idea that that was even like that anyway. So you know, it's a good class. I think it worked out good. I think it was good for them. It was good for us, and I can't wait to see what the future of that car does. And I hope they keep hammering down with it. I hope they keep racing it, and I wish them the best of luck. So anyways, guys, that's it for us. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
And here's a look again at what happens when you simply have too much horsepower, period.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Don't forget to go over to coolmotorsports.com, where we've got all kinds of merch over there and all kinds of high-performing products as well. And definitely a big shout out to our sponsors and partners. Till next time, you guys have a good one.